You know what's fascinating? On one Sunday in February, more than 115 million people across the United States are glued to their screens. They're wearing jerseys, ordering wings, refreshing betting apps, arguing about referees like constitutional lawyers. The Super Bowl becomes the emotional center of the country for a few hours. And at the exact same time, there's this entire shadow population who genuinely could not care less. Not performatively detached, not trying to be interesting, not saying sports ball for irony points. I mean complete neutrality. The Super Bowl registers for them the way competitive butter sculpting or regional lawnmower racing might register for you. It exists. It's happening. It just doesn't activate anything. And that difference is psychologically interesting, because caring about sports is not some default human setting. The brain does not arrive pre-programmed to experience a touchdown as a spiritual event. What's happening underneath the obsession is layered. There's tribal identity. There's social bonding. There's nostalgia. There's something psychologists call basking in reflected glory, where your brain delivers a dopamine reward when your team wins, even though you personally did nothing except sit on a couch in the right zip code. When your team scores, you feel elevated. When they lose, you feel deflated. That emotional spike is real. Brain imaging studies show increased activation in reward circuits when fans watch their teams succeed. It feels personal because your identity is partially attached. For people who don't care about the Super Bowl, watching that dynamic unfold can feel surreal. They see grown adults shouting at televisions, hugging strangers, spiraling over officiating calls, and they think, okay, I guess that particular trigger just doesn't fire for me. And that doesn't mean they're broken. There's research in the Journal of Consumer Psychology suggesting people have different optimal stimulation levels. Some nervous systems crave intensity, crowds, unpredictability, emotional highs and lows. Other nervous systems prefer lower arousal states. For them, high-stakes chaos feels draining rather than exciting. So when someone says they don't care about the Super Bowl, they may not be rejecting culture. Their baseline may simply prefer steadier experiences. A 3.5-hour broadcast filled with flashing graphics, loud commentary, emotional swings, and constant social energy might feel less like fun and more like sensory fatigue. Then there's the tribal layer. Humans evolved in groups. In-groups and out-groups shaped survival. Sports activate that ancient circuitry. We won. They lost. The language itself reveals something primal. Even if you never touch the field, you experience victory or defeat as shared. But not everyone experiences that pull equally. Some people find their sense of belonging in book clubs, gaming communities, political movements, church groups, creative collectives, fitness classes, or online forums about mechanical keyboards. Community still matters. It just doesn't revolve around memorizing quarterback stats or arguing about whether that was technically a catch. Another factor is locus of control. Psychologists differentiate between internal and external locus of control, whether you prefer investing emotional energy into outcomes you can influence, or whether you're comfortable attaching yourself to things beyond your control. Watching a football game is an exercise in external investment. You yell at the screen, you wear lucky socks, you believe in momentum, but you cannot change the outcome. For many people, that's the point. The emotional ride is the reward. For others, it feels fundamentally unsatisfying. They'd rather pour energy into projects, relationships, careers, or hobbies where effort directly shapes results. They want feedback loops they can influence. It's not that they lack passion. They just prefer agency. Modern overstimulation complicates this even more. Life already feels like an endless stream of notifications, deadlines, economic anxiety, political chaos, algorithmic feeds, and constant micro-demands for attention. If this moved you, comment 9 right now. If it didn't, comment 0. Your voice matters. Take 1 second and share it. If this moved you, for some, the Super Bowl isn't an escape. It's another cultural event trying to hijack emotional bandwidth. Highly sensitive individuals, estimated by some psychologists to make up about 20% of the population, experience heightened sensory processing. For them, Super Bowl parties can feel like endurance tests. The noise, the bright screens, the overlapping conversations, the collective emotional swings. What feels electric to one person can feel overwhelming to another. Uncertainty tolerance also plays a role. Research suggests people vary dramatically in how comfortable they are with unpredictability. Sports are built on uncertainty. That's the thrill. The tension before a field goal. The possibility of a comeback. For fans, suspense is energizing. For others, it's simply stress, especially when the outcome has no impact on their real life. Sitting through hours of manufactured tension for zero personal consequence can feel less like entertainment and more like optional anxiety. It's similar to horror movies. Some people love being scared in safe environments. Others find even fictional danger exhausting. Different nervous systems respond differently to controlled stress. Then there's ritual. The Super Bowl is no longer just a football game. It's commercials that cost millions of dollars. It's halftime performances engineered for viral moments. It's themed food, betting apps, celebrity appearances, and cultural commentary. If football doesn't resonate with you, the added spectacle can amplify the disconnect. You're surrounded by people intensely analyzing ads and halftime choreography, and you're thinking, am I supposed to feel something right now? That experience can feel isolating, not because you want to care, but because the expectation to care is so socially reinforced. And sometimes, there is no deep psychological explanation. Sometimes people just don't like football. We have a habit of pathologizing difference. If someone doesn't care about something culturally dominant, we assume there must be a reason. Trauma, social alienation, intellectual superiority. But sometimes it's taste. Some people dislike cilantro, some dislike country music, some dislike superhero movies. The person who doesn't care about the Super Bowl might be deeply passionate about Formula One, Broadway theater, competitive chess, Olympic gymnastics, esports, or fine dining. Preference does not require justification. What's more revealing is how uncomfortable it can make others when someone says, "I don't really care about the Super Bowl." The reaction can feel oddly defensive, as if you've rejected something sacred. That tells you everything about how sports function as identity markers in American culture. For many people, the Super Bowl isn't just entertainment. It's tradition, it's belonging, it's shared experience, it's childhood memories with parents, it's regional pride, it's annual ritual. So opting out can feel, to some, like rejecting the group itself. But opting out of one ritual doesn't mean opting out of connection. It just means connection happens somewhere else. If you don't care about the Super Bowl, the explanation could be layered. Your stimulation threshold may run lower. You may prefer agency over external outcomes. You may be sensitive to noise. You may find uncertainty draining. Or you may simply find football boring. All of those are valid. And if you live for the Super Bowl, if it's your favorite day of the year, if the halftime show matters, if the final score lingers in your chest for days, that's equally valid. We are not meant to experience culture identically. The fascinating part is that both emotional universes coexist on the same Sunday. One group riding waves of collective adrenaline, another group completely calm, cooking dinner, reading a book, going to the gym, or watching something else entirely. No superiority, no deficiency, just different nervous systems responding to the same cultural moment in radically different ways. And somehow, despite the difference, the country continues to function. Which might be the most impressive part of all. So maybe the real takeaway isn't about football at all. It's about difference. It's about recognizing that not every cultural moment has to move you in the same way it moves someone else. Some people feel alive in the roar of a stadium, in the tension of a last-second play, in the shared ritual of cheering with millions of strangers. Others feel most themselves in quieter spaces, in slower rhythms, in experiences that don't demand emotional spikes to feel meaningful. Neither response is more evolved. Neither is more authentic. They're just different expressions of how human nervous systems are wired. If you care deeply about the Superbowl, that passion says something beautiful about your capacity for connection, excitement, and shared identity. And if you don't care at all, that says something equally valuable about your boundaries, your preferences, and the way you choose to spend your emotional energy. The world is big enough to hold both reactions at the same time. In fact, it probably needs both, the intensity and the steadiness, the roar and the silence. If this perspective resonated with you, take a second to like this video so more people can join the conversation. Share it with someone who's ever felt out of place during a big cultural moment. And subscribe for more deep dives into the psychology behind everyday behaviors we rarely stop to question. Different doesn't mean wrong, it just means human.